was. Whatever it was, it had to be bad, and it had to do with me. That weight crushed him, making every breath heavy and disheartened. But whatever it was, Sven guessed it was going to have some pretty serious repercussions for all of them down the road. "Damn it, Galen. Why didn't you tell me?" he muttered, crouching low. He wanted to rant, to rave, to vent his frustrations. But there was no point in getting angry at the dead. Galen couldn't do anything to fix it now, no matter how much Sven wished he could turn back time. "Hey," Ash muttered shyly as she approached, holding a hot, steaming bowl. She glanced at Galen's grave, then focused on Sven. "Stew? It's your favorite. Lentil and lamb shanks." He stood as she handed him a rough-hewn wooden bowl. Sven lifted it up with a weary smile and inhaled. It sure did smell delicious. Lloyd sure does know how to cook. Always has. Sven's stomach rumbled, and he realized, to his surprise, that he was hungry. Starving, even? How long had it been since Ash had brought him breakfast that morning? He'd been out by the grave all day. "He put extra meat in it for you," she said, noticing how hungry Sven seemed to be. "In addition to all that extra spicy stuff." "Thanks," Sven muttered, giving her a wry smile. "You know how much I like spicy stuff." He took a bite, the flavor exploding in his mouth. He tried to savor it, taking another mouthful, and then he inhaled the whole bowl. Lloyd had completely outdone himself this time. He would have to remember to give his compliments to the chef. "That's a good stew," Sven complimented, wiping away the juices on his lips. "I can get you more, if you want," Ash offered, clearly trying to improve his mood. He knew she didn't like how down he'd been since Galen's death. His time out by the grave was evidence enough of his mood. "No," he said, shaking his head and looking toward the tavern. "I'll come back to the Adventurer's Rest soon, and then we can get going. I'll get more of the stew if there's any left after the others dig in." He let the bowl hang by his side as he spoke. "It's about time for us to move on. Physically and metaphorically." Sven looked back at the grave, giving it a last goodbye glance. "Yeah, speaking of moving on," she started. "We need to decide what we're going to do next." "About that. You know where we need to go," Sven replied, eyeing her warily. "I do," Ash admitted. "But not everyone does. The recruits want to take a vote about where to go. We're starting to run out of food." "We could hunt," Sven replied absent-mindedly, looking off towards the mountains looming in the distance. "Stay up here in the mountains. We could eat deer we hunt, maybe domesticate some of the mountain goats. The Adventurer's Rest would be a nice shelter for travelers lost in the snow." Ash made a pained face. "You really want that?" "No," Sven said, sighing as he ran his hand through his hair. "But it's one idea." "We need to be ready, Sven. Things have been set in motion, and we're still playing catch-up," she said, and he couldn't refute. In fact, he very much agreed. "We have to stop whatever this is. Otherwise, who knows what might happen." "I know, but I'm trying to figure out what happened, and not just with Galen," Sven explained, and Ash's expression softened. She knew exactly what he was talking about. "We have to go back to the Dreadmore," Ash stated. Sven knew there was no avoiding it. "I know." He sighed again. "It would be easier just to stay in the mountains and run an inn, but that would be staying ignorant to what's happened. It would be running away from the problem." "You know you'd get bored in about 5 minutes, Sven." She cracked a grin, letting out a short laugh. "And that's even if there wasn't a super depressing reason to get out of here." "I don't know," Sven said, his gaze wandering toward the mountains and the forests. "It's pretty here. Quiet, too. Maybe I'll get used to it. It wouldn't be the worst life to live." But he had to admit that she was probably right. Even as he looked at the sun streaking across the clean mountain peaks on the horizon,